Take two tracks to call us in the morning. It's the Spin Doctors. Welcome. Welcome, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, non-binary folks, boys and girls, non-binary children, dogs, cats, horses, guinea fowl, pigs, snakes, the air, birds. Did I mention birds yet? Maybe a small frog that just hopped up onto a lily pad and is tasting the air for the first time. He just grew up out of a tadpole, and he's up on the lily pad, and he's like, "Oh, what is this I hear floating along the breeze?" Much like, do you remember in like cartoons when old lady would bake a pie and she'd put it out on the windowsill, and then the smell would turn into a hand that would then like go across the landscape, and it would go into like Mickey Mouse's nose or whoever, Goofy maybe, I don't know, and then it would lift them up. I believe that's what is happening to this frog, but it is no pie smell. No. It is a sound, a specific sound that could only come from one place, or technically three places. We are in three separate places, but this sound is coming together and forming a whole greater than the sum of its parts. And that whole, welcome to my whole. This is the Spin Doctors. I am your host, Rick Storer, joined as always by my co-host, Nickelodeon Melodian. What's up, Nick? I can't hear you. This is excellent. It's fine. This is the show where we deal with audio problems on the show, so that you can. This is a peek behind the scenes, if you will. There's something so glamorous seeming about podcasting. It's very romanticized, and I know that the podcast stars of yesterday really stand out as pillars of society, but they didn't get to where they are without a few audio problems along the way. Nick, are you
still talking?
I mean, I had to fill the silence.
Jesus. I thought we were just going to like cut and be like, all right, well, let's just start over again. But okay, yeah, let's just write it out. Hey now, I'm here.
This is guerrilla podcasting, baby. This is what it's about. Oh, boy. Well, no further ado. Let's bring our guest to the show. He is a Bay Area staple, great comedian, great guy. Don't let his name fool you, because he's a nice guy. It's Mean Dave.
Hello. Yeah.
Hi, Dave. How you been, buddy?
You called me a staple. I like that. I don't like hearing. I hate the word when people say legend. Because I'm not.
Do people say that a lot about you?
Not a lot. No, it's the hype of an introduction. You know,
it is. Yeah.
And it's just I've been around a while. I've not made a name for myself significantly beyond just local shows and stuff. And it's nice to have a reputation. That's cool. But a staple is definitely and a staple is small. An actual literal staple is a small.
But a staple is also like integral most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it attaches
it holds things together.
It does, and it's used in extreme wrestling matches.
Yeah,
so yeah,
very much
they
so.
Inflict pain, which is and that's when the mean works. So there you go.
I used to actually because I used to be really into. I was a big juggalo, so I was into like backyard wrestling and everything.
I'm not gonna lie, Rick. I mean, I could kind of just look at you and be like, "Yeah, you were." Nothing wrong with that.
It makes a lot of sense.
I love juggalos. I love backyard wrestling people. I got a lot of friends over.
Yeah, but we used to do that. We used to like make. I remember me and my friend Kevin. We had the top to like a plastic like container, like a little plastic box, and we flipped it over, and I guess it wasn't staples, it was thumbtacks. We glued thumbtacks all over it, and then we would wrestle each other and like throw each other onto it because we were 13.
Morons. Yeah, you're kids.
Morons.
Well, morons, but yeah, all kids are morons. I mean, it's not
true. It's like a squares and rectangles kind of thing.
Yeah, always got to learn shit the hard way and all that stuff, and then that's why I never grew up. I'm still a moron. Yeah, here we go.
Stay gold, pony boy.
Yeah.
They say that they used to say that like tattoos would mark a moron. Like you would know a moron by getting tattoos, and I'm so glad that like tattoos are so everywhere now, accepted by everybody. But it's almost getting to the point where it's like coming around, and there's a whole like Pete Davidson is getting all his tattoos removed.
Yep.
Which is really weird to me.
Well, I mean, he has a lot of stupid tattoos, so I feel like it's kind of he needs to start from scratch.
Must be nice to have that kind of money. I mean, where it's just like you're basically just a sketch pad now. You know, you're just a human sketch pad.
You're an Etch-a-Sketch. You just go into the doctor and shake up.
I was behind somebody in line at the movies like a few years ago, and that's exactly what I thought of. Like, I saw his tattoos. I'm like, it's weird. He just looks like a human sketch pad, like of ideas. Only he just burned them into his skin, and all, you know, there might have been a couple. The only tattoos I ever liked that I've seen that look cool. I mean, I got friends with tattoos that, like, you know, I'm not gonna disparage them or anything, but the only ones that actually made me like, oh wow, that does look cool. There was a guy. There were these two crusty punks I met when I was playing in a band down south, and one of them had the tattoos of all of the major horror film icons that were done really well, like comic book level art tattooed. And he had like Leatherface, Freddy, Michael Myers, Chucky, like he had every single
Leatherface
icon.
really got the shit end of the stick on the whole naming convention gig, didn't he? Like, everybody else has real names, like Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers has a last name.
No, Pinhead's got
Pinhead. Okay, Pinhead's the worst.
Pinhead loses. They never call him Pinhead. Pinhead was named by fans. Like, he was just one of the Cenobites.
That's true.
Yeah, he was never. They've never addressed him as Pinhead in a movie. He's just one of the lead Cenobite. But
Leatherface is like known as Leatherface, right?
They do call him Leatherface. They didn't call him Leatherface, I think. No, they did call him Leatherface in the first one. No, I don't think it's a bad name. I think it's cool. You know,
I mean, it just seems like a roast.
Like, really. I mean,
it doesn't.
I think it was. I mean, I liked the name because the first movie I actually saw of those three was Leatherface. I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, I didn't. I got into those like later in my junior high years because I was a Freddy guy, and for whatever reason, you're a kid. You think, no, I stay loyal to the horror. You know, I'm not going to watch any of the other ones. And but I
have brand loyalty to this pedophile.
It was true. He's not a pedophile. Hey, get that right. He's not a pedophile.
Freddy? Yes, he is.
No, he's a child murderer. He's a child murderer.
You don't think that he did anything else?
No,
he just murdered.
No, the character was
man.
Never. If you follow,
he's all business.
I've been deep in. They imply it only in the remake, which is terrible.
Okay.
They implied it on that. It was all about murder. Like, it was all about just scaring the kids. He wasn't into. Yeah, he wasn't into fucking.
All right. He's a saint. I take it all back.
He didn't want to fuck
I like
the kids.
thinking about him in court.
The kids. Yeah.
I like thinking about him in court trying to like straighten that. Be like, look,
Your
I was
Honor.
all about the murdering. Your Honor.
I'll take it. I'll argue that case right there, man. No, no, because that was one of
Your
the
Honor,
things.
I may be nothing but a simple country lawyer, but my client was not sexually attracted to these children. He just wanted to murder the shit out of them.
No, scare them and murder them. It was fear. But the funny thing about it is the current climate of everybody's mindset. I want to say like QAnon and all that shit. It's a byproduct of a country that's always been obsessed with youth, and that's always been obsessed. I mean, it's and we throw that word around now when it's like, if a kid, before, having sex with teenagers when you're for adults was like something that people aspired to do in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and now they throw it.
Yeah, there's so many songs where it's like, oh, she was 17. You know what I'm saying?
No shit. And I'm like, it's no, they're lecherous. I don't know, and that's where I'm like, I don't. You guys, everybody's just got a lot of spare time, and they want to. They just, they really want to spend their minds. You can blame Chris Hansen for all this shit or whatever. I don't know. So much so that you guys are now smearing my fucking murderous icon of horror. You're labeling him a pedophile. It's like, no,
I take it back.
Child murder.
Let me, Freddie. I would like to address you personally. I'm not sure what your last name is, Freddie.
Krueger
Johnson.
Freddie Krueger.
Oh yeah, fuck. How did I forget that?
Jesus,
I was going to say the
Christ,
13th.
Man. No wonder you calling him
Freddie the 13th.
Freddie the 13th face.
Mr. Krueger,
Terrible.
I am deeply apologetic for the slanderous and libelous things that I have said about you and your strictly platonic relationship with these murdered children.
Fear me.
Yep.
Platonic.
His full name is Frederick Kreuger, too. Just so
Frederick Kreuger?
Yes.
He made a change when he came through Ellis Island.
I didn't even see Leatherface until after that, and then Texas Chainsaw Massacre became my favorite of the because it's funny. Like, people don't realize I know it shocked people in the 70s, but if you watch the original And the way they made it, the story of them making it is just as ridiculous. Like they made this, low budget movie in like the worst of circumstances in Texas, and like all the shit they put themselves through willingly to make that movie. And then not only that, it became a huge success that none of them made any money on, because so many dirty, like there was like mafia, I think like Texas mob people involved and all that. And they basically they just took all that money that they made, and they built a reputation around it. But like, I think only Toby Hooper and then maybe Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface, like, and I think some of the others did some acting, but like none of them came out of it really that much, like, with anything from it. Toby Hooper did. I mean, he got a career in film. But
I feel like that happened with a lot of movies before Star Wars came and was just like, no, you can have a movie be very lucrative outside of it being like, you can have all these deals on shit, merchandising, and now there's, Leatherface everything. Yeah, no, independent cinema was like, I mean, if you look, because like that's what as a Tarantino fan, he talks a lot about the stuff from like the 70s. I mean, not just Tarantino, but like the whole movie, the whole Dolomite movie Eddie Murphy made was about
great movie.
Rudy Ray Moore, and how he basically self produced and then self-distributed his movie by touring it around. Like the guy who made Billy Jack did the same thing. And you don't hear about those movies because all of mainstream entertainment is owned by the same, major corporations, and they're not gonna educate you on how to do things yourself. No.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Have you ever been scared by a scary movie?
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally.
What's the scariest scary movie? Let's do a round. We'll all take a turn.
Oh god.
Go ahead. You guys first.
Okay, us first. Okay, I guess I built this ship. I might as well sail it. I would say the scariest movie I've ever seen, and this is gonna be stupid, was Fear.com.
Fear.com. What's that?
It's a super dumb, cheesy, early 2000s horror movie about this website that killed people.
Oh, okay, fun.
You would go to this website and it would show you the thing that was your true, deepest fear, and then somehow that fear would like come true, or like you would hallucinate, or it would like, I can't remember the exact dynamics of the movie, but it was a website that killed people. You'd go to fear.com and it would fucking kill you. And there's this like little girl on it, because little girls are
always a little girl,
always scary. But she's got this like fucked up jaw thing where she's got like a metal like plate around her mouth, or it's like some sort of wrapping or something, but it's fucked up looking. And I was like 14, way too old to be scared. And I saw it like late at night at my friend's house, and I had to literally hide my eyes. Like I was like, nope, I'm looking down into this couch cushion now. I'm not
you're never too old to not be afraid. That is a false. You can be afraid at any age.
I also did scream at The Ring.
I can see that. And how old were you again? You were like, what?
Too old. I went to the movie theater with some friends. Like,
but how old?
So let's see. When did The Ring come out?
It was in the early 2000s.
Or no, it wasn't The Ring. It's the one with the ghost house, where it's like, it was originally a Japanese movie.
The Grudge. The Grudge.
The Grudge. That's it. The Grudge. When that little boy like goes, and he comes towards the screen, it just like freaks me the fuck out, and I literally screamed into the air in the middle of this movie theater. I think 2004.
Yeah,
2004.
Because I was testing DVDs, and those were movies. I didn't see Fear.com because that's just fucking stupid. The title alone. The title
it sounds like a horror movie on a Disney Channel original movie.
Really, it sounds like that. It sounds like iCarly presents Fear.com.
The Halloween episode.
Mm-hmm. All right, Nick, what's your scary movie?
First of all, I don't do scary movies. I'm going to be honest. I get too scared. I'm a very scaredy cat, scaredy boy. Yes. But the scariest movie. Well, first, one of the scariest scenes that's just stupid realistically, but just like frightened the fuck out of me as a kid was in the first Harry Potter movie when Voldemort is sucking the blood out of the unicorn in the Forbidden Forest or whatever.
Yeah.
It scared the fuck out of me. Couldn't sleep that night. So that's where we are with horror.
Okay.
But
it was the first Harry Potter movie.
It was a scary moment in the Harry Potter
scary
movie.
moment that really
There's
has
this
followed
really
me.
scary part in Harry Potter where it's this big hairy man and he comes in and he tells this kid that he's a wizard, and I was like, no, don't take him away from his family.
But the scariest movie would probably be Signs. That shit freaked me out. It's creepy,
wow.
scary. Yeah.
Are aliens like? Do they freak you out?
No, it was more of like the jumpy thing. Like there's that scene where like Mel Gibson has the knife and he's like looking under the door to see because there's like an alien trapped in a room and he wants to see if it's real. And he shines the blade of the knife under and a hand reaches out and he like chops off some fingers. That kind of shit fucked me up. Like
jump scare kind of stuff.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't do that. And I don't do that kind of shit in real life either. Like, don't be like, ooh, let's scare Nick. Don't, because it's not going to end well.
Get scared.
I will get scared. I will slap around, and then I won't talk to you ever again.
It's always, you have to really, if you're going to prank somebody, you got to pick the person you're going to prank, because some people do not respond well. Like,
I just wrote a new joke about like one of the only solid pranks I've ever done in my life. And it scared the shit
what is
out
it?
of someone.
I gotta hear about. I gotta hear about this prank now.
I'll tell you after my.
Okay,
my
we can't burn this on the free feed.
Yeah.
All right, your turn. What's your scary movie, Dave?
Well, here's the thing, because like horror movies didn't scare me; they intrigued me. Like when I was a little kid, I saw like like Poltergeist. I remember there were some flashes of like things that freaked me out in it, but I still was like more drawn to it. So like things that were like. As far as like a horror movie that really actually probably freaked me out a little bit was the first time I saw The Exorcist, and it wasn't like I saw the whole movie. We were flipping through channels and my friend, I guess, had cable and I didn't know it. And we caught it right at the point as she's stabbing herself with the crucifix saying, let Jesus fuck you, let Jesus fuck you. And we're in like I'm not really even full on into heavy metal yet. I was just like, what, whoa, like you can't do that.
Yeah.
So, and then we ended up watching Nightmare on Elm Street 3 that night. That was like the first time I saw that movie. So we were watching like, I was more intrigued by it. So it's weird. If something's scary, you shouldn't want to keep watching it, right?
That's why I hid my face at fear.com, dude. I was too scared.
Pussy. But I think the thing about it was like, when in terms of really like fear-based stuff, I don't get scared as much by horror. I find intriguing because I actually was into it based on knowing like Fangoria magazines and like it's creative and it's and like the idea of like abstracts such as like evil and dimensions or and I did. So by the time I found like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I actually was intrigued more by like real life horror. That wasn't even though that's like inspired by Ed Gein and all that. So I still didn't find it scary. I found it funny. What the scariest movie that I found, what really scares me, is like actual societal collapse. And so like probably the scariest movie I've seen was The Big Short by Adam McKay.
Yes.
Because that movie will let you know just how fragile everything we live on is.
Yeah.
And really spells it out in a great entertaining form, but also it's just like I'm fucking terrified now. That's
and learning.
Yeah, I'm terrified at because it's fragile. But the more that what keeps it going is this whole notion of like, if I don't pay attention to it, it won't be there. It's that ignorance is bliss kind of aspect to the culture, and yet so much profit off of it and all that. It's insane. And then the guy in the movie that Christian Bale plays. He was the one who foresaw the whole housing market, collapse and all that.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, they get that line that says his next interest, what he's interested in, is water. So it's like that's the little tagline, like, yeah, bitch, that's the next collapse. Is
Mad Max is just like a
for
fucking
water. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's about to be a documentary.
The imagination aspect to things I find intriguing. It's it's stuff that's based in reality. Like I got freaked out in the movie Very Bad Things, which it's an all right movie. It's more of a satirical kind of downward spiral movie from the 90s, and I recommend it. It was Peter Berg's first film. But it's got a lot of faces you've seen, like Jon Favreau's in it, Christian Slater,
love Favreau,
and a bunch of character actors. But the Jeremy Piven, before he got his hair patch on, it was when he was still bald. And Piven actually is a pivotal part in it because it's all about them going. They're all going to have a bachelor party, and in the bachelor party they hire a stripper hooker or whatever, and then next thing you know he's banging her in the bathroom while they're all partying, doing drugs out in the main room, and in the process of banging her, he's like slamming her into the walls of the bathroom, like, you know, going into it, and she's like all into it, and then he slams her into one wall where towel hooks. You know, hooks to hang her towels. They jam right into the back of her head, or the back of her neck more, just jam into her head. And so he's sitting there banging her, and she's like sitting there like all frozen from the shock of it. And then he realizes that he accidentally killed her. And then from there,
true story.
That's the thing, is it's a movie, it's a fiction. I mean, it felt, the thing was that felt like that could fucking happen.
It feels very specific.
Yeah. So I'm more intrigued, like that, the horror of like that fuck, and then that propels the rest of the movie. Because from that point on, they don't own up to it. They're not. And for an addict like me, looking back on it, it's like it's a perfect addict horror film because you're sitting there like they're not going to go to the cops. They're not going to tell them what happened. They're going to get in trouble. They got drugs. They got a hooker. They got all this other shit. So they're doing everything they can to hide it, and then it just all comes undone. It's just this downward spiral of everybody turning on everybody, and it gets pretty funny too. So it's a dark movie, but the
sounds
point of
hilarious.
Exactly. No, but that part I almost fainted because from the reality of like, I was high when I watched it, but I was like, oh my god, that could actually happen, and then you're fucked. And it's like, again, that's real horror.
See, it's one of those moments like I'm always like the person when it's like, oh, we're gonna watch a movie, let me get a little high, because I love watching a movie high. But then when you don't realize that there's gonna be something heavy in the movie, and then all of a sudden your high gets flipped on you and things get a little too real,
lightheaded and everything.
Yep, and you're breathing heavily. You're like, oh.
I'm gonna die one day.
There is one movie,
and it might be right now.
There is one movie that's terrifying too, but in a totally different way. And as an adult, this movie, and it's not, it's close, the closest thing to like I want to say like a horror film, but it's brutal. And I own it, and I think I've only watched it once. And it's a movie called Irreversible by Gaspar Noé. If you don't know who he is, good. Don't ever look him up. Because you're better off living. Well, I say this because, I mean, it's like, if you're into fucked up, films and art, go check him out. But
is it like a Serbian film level?
Close. Yeah, actually, I mean, I want to say like Serbian film is a fan probably of Gaspar Noé. Because he made the movie Irreversible. It stars his wife, Monica Bellucci, who everybody knows, she's gorgeous and shit. And it's a story that takes place, you're getting information backwards. So it starts with the last event at the end,
nice.
And then we're seeing events as they go. And let's just say it starts from hell. You're in hell, and then you're like kind of going to this place of innocence with these characters that have no idea where their night is about to descend into. And it's boasts the selling point of the film. It boasts the longest single shot rape scene ever. Yeah. So that doesn't make you want to watch it. Yeah, there you go. Just so it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we'll be taking our first break.
Yeah, there you go. But no, you never know. There's somebody's gonna be like, "Well, I got to see this single shot rape scene that Dave's talking about."
There's one listener that I know is a consistent listener, Corey Jernigan, that I feel like might be his cup of tea. Maybe I'm just throwing that out there.
It's brutal, and I'll tell you this point: by the time you get to the rape scene, it's not that it's like you've already been through so much in the first part of the movie
that you're like,
you're already
a nice aperitif.
Yeah, like, oh, good, thank God, it's just rape.
Good, we're lightening up now. Jesus Christ!
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, not horrible. It's a horrible feeling. It's a movie that's like it's meant to really fuck you up,
evoke feelings.
As far as like a real adult horror film that's like, especially by today's age, and told in like in an art, like it's very, it's got a lot of artistic aspects to it. Actually, Gaspar Noé and Marilyn Manson They were pals.
Oh, God.
Man. Go figure. And they made a movie themselves called it's called Groupie, and they never released it because what it was them. It was and it's all done. It was all acting, but they hired a girl to play a groupie, which shows up at their doorstep, and they basically do terrifying or horrible, debasing things that obviously we've heard about what dudes been accused of and all the aftermath. Well, this was them making a movie intending to play into those roles and all that, and then Manson showed it to his manager, and he said, "You can never show this film to anyone," because they played it for realsy, they're playing it as if it like a snuff film type of vibe. And he was like, "Yeah, you need to destroy this. Don't let anybody see it."
Wow.
So I don't know if it still exists somewhere, but he talked about it.
It's in the Disney vault, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
It's locked away with Song of the South.
Locked in there with the R. Kelly P video.
With all the dick drawings in the backgrounds of their movies.
It's always movies the things that scare me are the things, like you said, that could actually happen, or you said societal collapse, but even if it's not societal collapse, if it's just a murder story or whatever, it only scares me if it's something that could actually happen.
Yeah, grounded in reality, man.
Chucky never scared me. Friday the 13th never scared me.
Well, the
Zodiac Killer's real.
Yeah,
right.
Zodiac
There's
real.
cheap. Yeah, Zodiac Killer. I
don't know. It's only stuff. I think that's why Fincher's movies, I think, are so effective. Seven will fuck you up. When I first saw Seven, that was a good, effective thriller. In the movie theater, and I would say Fight Club to some extent too. There's people that have made good. It's funny because you don't think of them as horror films, but they do better than I think most horror films of the genre. Horror films are just like riding roller coasters. It's you're just looking for cheap jump scares to kind of that kind of shit.
Yeah. So. Especially if it's a completely out of this world premise, we've got an extra dimensional clown demon, Pennywise. It has never scared me. You know what? I have a deep-seated fear in my life of anytime I walk past a chain link fence, I am convinced that somehow I'm going to slip and fall, and my eyeball will land on the top of the chain link fence, and it will stab me. Then that runs through my mind every time I walk past a chain link fence.
Oh, man.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It haunts me. I visualize. I'm walking past a chain link fence and I look over and I see it, and it's I can just see myself. I don't even know how it would happen. I'm not that clumsy, but just whoops, and just falling forward onto this thing. And
buddy of mine tore his balls on the top of the chain link fence. Yeah, it's great. It was one of the best things that ever could happen to him too, because he was one of my old bandmates.
All right, gamers, can we get an F in chat, please?
He was just real pretentious and shit. He was in my band and stuff, and in my bands early, and I'm still kind of friends with him. But he doesn't even really. I think he might not know that I know this. But he was living with another friend of mine at the time who couldn't stand living with them and would always tell me all their fucking horseshit. And then he called me one day. He goes, "Dude, Dave, I gotta tell somebody that this is the funniest shit ever." And I Keith basically just got back from the hospital and he's acting all bummed and he wants to tell me about it. I can tell he wants to tell me about it because he's just one of those dudes where it's if he wants to talk, he hints at it. And so I'm like, dude,
until you drag it out of him.
Just tell me what's wrong. And he goes, I fucking tore my dick, dude. And he was like, what? And so apparently he was going walking in these Coyote Hills. We have it's this walking area, park or whatever, wildlife refuge in our area. And he likes to do stupid things. Apparently every now and then he thinks he's Jackie Chan or some shit. And he's a tall dude, too. So he thought he was going to pull a Jackie Chan.
Sounds like Jackie Chan to me.
And he thought he was going to run up this chain link fence, run up it and jump it over it. God. And instead he got up the fence and got one leg over, and then he landed straddling on the fence, and basically the thing went tore his sack into his dick. And so there he was. He had to basically lift himself off the fucking thing and then take himself to the hospital and had to get,
he had to take himself.
yeah, he had to get
to the hospital.
stitch it. Like, imagine walking into that shit. I'm like, but my
Where
buddy
did you even
exactly.
start?
My buddy was dying laughing, telling me the story, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, and he's bummed out because he's sitting there with stitches in his balls and his dick, and I'm like, why did he even tell you? Like, he knows that you're gonna like laugh your ass off and probably tell me, and so yeah, I kept that secret for days, like
days.
God.
Yeah, for a long time.
I just like I like the image of him sitting on top of that chain. Like, as soon as it happens, he's like, "Oh no!" It's like the sequel to 127 Hours. He's just like,
totally. Oh my god, yeah.
At what point do I cut my balls off to escape this fence?
Yeah, it was so worth it for how stupid a stunt he was trying to pull. So.
Oh my god! I'd like to take my scariest thing ever back and change it to what you just told me, Dave.
No problem. I'll make it into a movie.
See, that's what I'm scared
you.
is going to happen to my fucking eyeballs.
Yeah, the story.
Look at me, guys! I'm Jackie Chan.
That's not the only thing he's done. He's done all kinds of things that hurt himself, and he's just never filmed it. I'm like, you're like Steve-O, only without the smart part to film. you're doing all these dumb things that injure yourself so badly.
Dude, he could have been on Instagram for weeks, months with that video.
God, this was in the 90s. We didn't really.
Oh yeah.
We didn't think to film ourselves.
All right, leak them.
Well, no, Jackass was way ahead of its time in that regard.
Yeah.
So yeah, but.
All right. Well, on that note, let's take the first break of the show. And when we get back, we're going to figure out what album Dave has brought for us. And we are going to talk about that album when we return on the Spin Doctors. Welcome back to the show. We are back with the show. It's generally what we come back from the break with is the rest of the show, which this is no exception. For it's the rest of the showtime. As we do every week, we have an album. Dave has brought an album that has memories, stories, opinions, thoughts associated with it, all of the above. And we're going to talk about that album today. Dave, what album did you bring?
I brought the Melvins Bullhead.
Nice.
Melvins Bullhead.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
The album. It's I forget which order it is in the album, but this was one of their first albums that was recorded well. They released a bunch of albums. They're from Washington. They moved to San Francisco in the late 80s. They thought they were actually not going to be a band anymore, and then they ended up reforming when they found a new bass player in San Francisco. And this was one of the albums that they recorded for Boner Records, which was like their label that became their home, I think. After Ozma, somewhere around after Ozma, or maybe Gluey Porch Treatments, and those albums were like more. I mean, they're kind of punkier. I mean, not style wise, but they're raw recordings. More raw,
like
recordings.
The production style.
Yeah, and this one was probably the first album. This one and another EP they released, I think, after this was called Eggnog, and these were albums that were recorded better. Yeah, no, they got. I love their album.
These album titles are amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, when your record label is Boner Records.
Yeah. No, but yeah, and that was one of the things that attracted me to them after I first saw them, because I saw them in my first introduction to them was in early 1992, and they were doing a split show, like a split co-headlining show with a band I was very familiar with, Guar. Anybody who knows Guar, we were talking about it earlier. They're like kind of like heavy metal Muppets. And I followed them quite a bit since I was in junior high and would see them quite often. Melvins I heard about throughout the years. I always knew the name because if anybody who's into music as much as I was, when you got albums, you would check the liner notes for who the band would thank and look for other bands that you might look interesting, and you might go check out those bands if they seemed interesting.
It's like an early precursor to Spotify's You May Also Like.
No, that totally is what it was. And so and there were bands I started getting into, like kind of more avant-garde style bands, and they were local bands like Neurosis, another band called Grotus that we liked at the time.
Did you ever listen to The Residents?
my friends like the Residents. I never really got too into them, but I know that they're big hit with like a lot of, they're like a, musician type of weirdo band. And Butthole Surfers was another one that was, they went on to popularity and stuff. But locally, it was Melvin, or it was Neurosis that I got into at some point in later junior high, and then Grotus as well. And I would see this band, the Melvins, listed in their liner notes, and I just thought the name was interesting because I'm like, Melvins, who would name their band Melvins? It just seems so stupid. And, and so it's intriguing, it's as for somebody who's like, I mean, we listened to a band called the Butthole Surfers, so of course we're gonna
exactly.
I thought that was, so
band name is important.
Yeah, and so I just thought the Melvins was kind of an interesting name. And then years cut to like, time goes on. I see their name in like these local shows that were like at Gilman or at the Omni, which was an old club that was out here. Gilman's like a classic punk club that's out here in Berkeley and stuff, the Bay Area. And I would see they were doing these shows, and I would see their name on lineups with other bands that I had heard of and maybe some I didn't. And they were playing like free shows and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I got to check out this Melvins band sometime, because I just keep seeing this name around, and it's just it's intriguing. And then the part that really made me raise my eyebrow was when Nirvana just broke in 1991. They became an overnight phenomenon with the release of Nevermind. They were playing their video on Headbangers Ball, which I watched religiously, and I thought it was weird because their song sounded heavy, but it was like it wasn't thrash metal. It wasn't really metal, but it was like, it was heavy and it was yelling, and it was not exactly punk rock, but it had the tones of punk rock and all that. So I found it interesting, and naturally I got into it too, even though it was like one of the few times where I was into music that was kind of popular. And so I checked out, got the album and stuff. And there was an early interview with Kurt Cobain, where they were talking about, what bands inspire you? And he goes, well, I like things like Public Enemy and the Melvins. And I'm like, the Melvins?
Here they are again.
This motherfucker just name dropped the band playing free shows in my area.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? The Melvins. So that, again, I'm seeing it in this spectrum, and now I'm just hearing it from the number one band in America about this band. And so that was intriguing. And then next thing you know, Guar's coming around, and I'm kind of growing out of Guar, but I still like going to see them, here and there. But they were doing this split bill with the Melvins, and I was like,
whoa,
oh, now I'm going to go see this band and find out what this Melvins band's all about. And the best thing about it was it kicks off with this first song. I hated Guar fans. I love Guar. Hated Guar fans.
Yes.
Guar fans.
I have that feeling about a lot of different things, honestly. Like, I really like Rick and Morty. I think Rick and Morty's a fantastic show. I fucking hate Rick and Morty fans.
Yeah. I mean, they remind us about the worst aspects of ourselves, usually. But, I mean, just in general, like, here's the thing that, like, I never understood. Guar fans would go to the show early, and they would boo every opening band. And I'm like, why are you here early? Why don't you just show up later? You're not, and nothing against, like, I don't care if a band sucks. I don't care if whatever. I'm there to see the opening bands, and I'm like, I'll give them a chance. If I don't like them, I'll just sit there and watch them or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll go.
Whatever. It's still live music.
Yeah, I'm not like, because that kills them even more than being booed. Like they hate indifference. Like I've seen so many bands bomb in that regard of just like, why don't you guys fucking move? And it's like, because we're not feeling it, dog. And so
why aren't you guys laughing?
Yeah, just something. I feel
like I'm just hearing myself on stage right now.
Exactly, just like a comedian, and that was. It's funny because I would think like a comedian when it came to these bands back in the day. It's like, play your shit and don't give a fuck, And but Guar bands that opened for Guar were always very resilient. They had this one band called Agony Column that, if you know in wrestling the term jobber. Like, they're a jobber band. Like, they were there to just be beaten by the Guar fans. Like, they were not that good a band. They would go on tour. They were just like this real weird, like, kind of like a raw metal band, but they weren't, like, I never picked up an Agony Column album. I just remember they were laughing because the singer was like balding long hair, and he would always just do this like thing in between his lyrics like that. Like he was a bushwhacker. And it was so weird. And but yeah, and I remember seeing RKL, Rich Kids on LSD. They opened for him one time at the Warfield, and that was like the band that probably got the most, like almost got the Guar fans on their side. And I ended up becoming friends, or I ended up becoming friends with the bass player for a long time when I met him years later, working testing video games. And so cut to this Guar show. Or this Guar show at the Melvins. So now I'm like, okay, finally I get to check out the Melvins. And my impression was like they were probably going to be some band like I had already heard Green Day. This was before they blew up. My stepsister liked Green Day. I didn't like it. I was like, well, I hope they're not this catchy pop punk kind of shit. You know, who knows? Like, but if they were, then wouldn't like. But also Green Day would pop up in the liner notes of Neurosis and stuff because they were all friends and shit. And so I'm like, who knows? I just had no indication what I was going to hear. And what they came out. Here's what they did. They had, because it's just those two bands. There's no other opening bands. Melvins have their shit set up, and then the drum set looks really weird. It's got some weird fucking things on it as well, like a weird ring like that the guy would hit. Later I would find out to make this weird sound. Had their big amps and all that. And then what would happen was these guys came out. They turned on their amps. So we're thinking they're getting ready to go, and everybody's yelling, "Fuck you, Guar!" Like the place is packed.
Yeah.
And then they walk backstage, and they just let their amps feed back, like for a little while. So you think they're just like, going to do this for a little bit. They let their amps feed back at a deafening volume, doing weird noises. They like one of them at a time would come out and like act like he was like they were about ready to like do, and then take the guitar or the bass back off and go right backstage. They did this shit for 45 fucking minutes, man.
Holy shit!
And like everybody they instituted a decibel level ordinance after this show. Everybody in the room had their hands over their ears. And like was like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Like they were just letting their amps feedback this weird, and what's weird is it was noise too. Like there was it wasn't like high pitch feedback. It was this like like bass heavy feedback. Sounded like whales humping, but it was like hitting your inner ears and shit. Everybody had their ears covered, and I look over and there were two dudes, only two guys in the whole packed show that both had smiles on their faces. Who looked like kind of alternative dudes. Like everybody else looks like a metalhead, and these guys are the only two guys that are like kind of like alt-looking motherfuckers. And I don't mean alt-right. This is alternative music.
This is back when alternative wasn't a fucking...
I want to clarify. Yeah, they're like alternative 120 minutes people we're talking about. And they smoke. I saw them smoking weed earlier. This wasn't like I didn't smoke weed at the time, and I saw they were smoking weed like earlier before all this started. And these guys were just like they had smiles because they knew that the Melvins. I'm like, oh, so they're doing this on purpose for whatever reason. And they basically shook up the hornet's nest of all these Guar fans, got them so pissed off. And then finally, after 45 minutes, they then come out. And the drummer's in his underwear, because he plays in his underwear at the time. They were like purple Speedos. The bass player looks like a taller Charles Manson, Joe Preston. He was their bass player at the time. He's this big, shaggy-haired, bearded, with glasses, just a big dude. And then Buzzo, King Buzzo, the guitar player, he comes out, and he is just the weirdest looking, like, just a weird looking dude. At the time, he had his, what he normally had his fro. He had the whole back and sides of his head shaved, and just the top with his like curly afro strands. He looked like a pineapple. He literally looked like a pineapple, and
like Sideshow Bob style.
But no, he looks more like Sideshow Bob later when he has the full hair.
Right.
But it's all just shaved around here. He literally looked like a pineapple, and it was. But when you saw him. Nobody was doing it. Nobody looked like that who played this type of music. And this type of music, I never heard this type of music. So and they played a very slow, sluggish song, which is the first song on this album. So,
and that was the first time that you had ever actually heard their music.
First time, yeah. And I've never heard anything that sounded like these guys before. And a lot of these songs this album had just come out, so they were playing a lot of songs off this album and their older ones. And their songs are not your standard, like, there's some catchy moments, but it's strange. They really are more, they're somewhere between, like, punk rock and prog rock in their approach, and they're just laymen. They're not like your. It's funny because it's like they're like working man's techie instrumentalists. Like it's really strange to describe them. So
cool.
Yeah.
And how many times have you seen them live now?
Who knows? I mean, ever since then, because I slowly became a huge fan of theirs within that year. Like, because at first I didn't know if I liked them or not, which is really a strange place to be. They impressed me merely on their attitude, because that night they ended up, through the noise and through their combination of both these slow songs and their fast songs that had that weren't like 4/4 catchy kind of shits. It confused the fuck out of the audience. Half the audience left by the time.
Whoa! Oh, really?
Yeah, it was great. It was my favorite Guar show because it wasn't like I wasn't crushed in the front. I got to just stand there and be bleated on and all that later. And I'm like, the Melvins fans they left an impression with me that, like, if an audience doesn't like you, make them flat out hate you and never forget you. That was their like kind of ambition. And later on, when I got the Melvins book, and they wrote about this whole tour and that night. Turned out they hated the Guar fans from Portland so bad they took it out on the Guar fans in Oakland. So that was
that's what it was. They were like, these motherfuckers.
They just were like, we're just gonna why they didn't like Guar fans anywhere, and so they basically they decided they were gonna punish the audience right away, which was fucking hilarious. And it was still and I'm glad this was like my introduction to them. Because they won me over with attitude, and then their music was just like something I've never heard before, because they had a different approach to music, and through that, it was just one of those things that I'm like, I want to, I'm gonna check this out and investigate it, and then their songs just grew on me. So
Man, God, that is like the wet dream of a music fan's introduction to a band like that, like this weird avant-garde. Show you don't know what to expect, and they're doing this feedback thing, but then you start getting the signals like, no, this is what they do, and then they come out and they kill it. They do the impossible. They
were the loudest
the
band.
Guar fans.
They did, and they were the loudest band. The fact is no matter what I thought of the music, I've never heard anything louder and heavier, like heavy in its tone, in its attitude, and the way King Buzzo performs and plays. Like I was just, because these are not like like cool looking dudes. They were
not at all
weirdos. No. They were like dorks and weirdos. They had a Kiss. He had a Kiss sticker on his guitar at a time when no one liked Kiss.
No,
like everybody thought even if you liked Kiss from when they were cool, it's like you didn't tell anybody. And they were just like earnestly displaying their affection for the things they liked, whatever. And just in that Kiss. I think he just thought it looked cool on his guitar.
Yeah, he made it. I love Kiss. I'm gonna throw this on there.
Yeah, exactly. He made it cool, and so it just spoke to me in all of its like outsiderness of just like, here was this band that like, and they forever have kind of like maintained that there's people that were like fans of them then that aren't fans of them now and whatever. But the funny thing is they've never hit they've never peaked, in my opinion. They may have for some, but in my opinion, they've always maintained this like uniqueness where like new people constantly discover them, and it feels like they're your own, and they like it that way too. Like they're like a comedian that wants to stay in the clubs. They don't want to be some stadium fucking. It's not like they don't want to sell out either. They went through that whole period of like, well, we'll see if we're that band, but then they discovered they weren't. They like being the band they are, and and they love what they do, and they do it very well.
Man. Beautifully said.
Do we listen to these shits or something? I don't know what you do.
I'm gonna steal Nick's
Melvins
question.
Of you.
Nick usually asks this question, but so you still, when you listen to them, you still feel like the same way you do when you first heard them. Like you're still enraptured by the music, and you still really love it.
In a way, but I mean I think what I love about them more is like when they have more than more than any other band, and for my money, live they're amazing. If they're not only are they highly affordable, if you ever get a chance to go see them. They put on an amazing live show of just solid performance for your money. On top of that, as far as the music, they have, when you hear their songs, it's like it's like a good. It's like when you see a good movie that has a lot of depth to it. You'll hear something different. You'll see something different in it. And one of the things I love about them is they're one of the few bands where if I get an album of theirs that's new and I don't like it right away, I don't like get rid of it. I wait and I sit on it and I'll come back to it and I'll find that's what it is. It's that trust of, and there's certain bands from a lot of that era that like they've moved on to other projects and I'll get into, just on the name alone, rarely will I not like something that this person touches, if they have that trust as an artist with me. And the Melvins are pretty much the only thing I don't like of the stuff they do are their side project bands. I've never liked, or I don't want to say I've never. They've done side project bands with other musicians, and I don't know what it is. They've done solo records within the context of the Melvins that I fucking love, but. Like Dale Crover as a solo artist, haven't got into his shit. I didn't like. I used to see his other band Altamont a lot, and they were all right, but I never got that into him. Buzzo he's done some like acoustic solo stuff that's all right, and I'm kind of it's okay, but I'm not that into it. Right. And then they've done they actually do collaborations within the context of the Melvins that I love. But they did a band called Crystal Fairy that was pretty popular with the singer of La Butcherettes and one of the guys from At the Drive-In, I think. And that was like this real hyped band that was going to be, something. And then they had a falling out and they never ended up doing their tour.
Do something with like Jello Biafra?
Jello he's recorded 2 albums with them that's my least favorite Melvins because I can't stand Jello.
I cannot. Thank you, because I fucking hate Jello Biafra.
I don't hate him, but I don't like him. I've met him, or I've not met him. I've been around him and like don't want to meet him. He's one of those dudes that like I respect immensely what he's done with Dead Kennedys and all that stuff. But when it came to when he started kind of injecting himself in Melvin's world, I'm like, and I'll give him this, like the only way I really will listen to him is the Jelvins, the albums he's done with the Melvins, where they call it the Jelvins. Yeah. So
the only experience that I've had with him is I went and saw Tool a few years ago, and we decided to take acid before the show.
Oh God! And he performed. No.
And he opened the show. Jello Biafra and then Guantanamo School of Medicine opened the show.
So sorry.
And we were in the front row of this fucking shit happening, and he fell around on stage and like stumbled through shit and like yelled at people and was so weird. It like totally fucked up our mood, and we had to like leave. We were in the Bill Graham Civic Center in San Francisco, and we were in the front fucking row on the bottom, and we had to go all the way up to the mezzanine because like that was the only place that was left to get the fuck away from this horrible situation.
I can't imagine just hearing his voice on it.
Yeah,
fucking hate his voice, and
it's terrible.
Talks way too much between songs. Like all this bullshit, and then I've had a similar experience where I was on acid at a Melvins show, and one of the opening bands was this band called White Flag that I never heard of, and it turns out they're like this very nasally, like I don't know if they were like a hardcore like gay band or something, but they definitely sounded like it. They had this real nasally like just the style of their music was everything I don't like in punk rock in terms of like nasally. I keep saying the word nasally, but it really is like it's just like. Well,
it was just a big nose on stage.
And when I heard it, it sounded annoying, and I'm like, and when you're on acid and you're hearing something that annoys you when you're sober, it's like, this is just like this is like torture, and
it literally is torture.
And they were playing forever. I was like, it was the longest like fucking 30 to 40 minutes, and I was so glad when they were gone and the Melvins played. So.
Well, it is about that time to get into the actual album. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, we're going to take one more break, and then we're going to do it. So we will see you in just a minute, right here on the Spin Doctors. Oh, damn. That looks good as fuck.
I know, dude.
Oh.
You're the first guest to, while break time, get a snack that looks very delectable.
Believe me, it's not. It's just a 7-Eleven donut.
Those are the best. Don't lie.
No, the chocolate ones are the best. These ones, the lady convinced me to get 2 for $1.
They always do.
Mm-hmm. They're on that ups. It's like they fucking what do 7-Eleven workers work on commission? Like what the fuck?
Yeah, I was actually.
Why are
surprised.
they always trying to upsell me on everything?
This one. Normally, I haven't in a while. This is the first time in a while someone did that.
Well, all 7-Eleven employees are just out of work auto car salesmen. They're just like, I'm just done with the car game, man. I need a bigger challenge.
What's it gonna take to get you into 2 of these king-size Snickers?
Fucking A, man.
And
We're
here's
back,
a coupon for a 2-for-1 deal on American Spirits, but I don't smoke. Yeah, but just take the coupon, man.
Look, don't tell my boss about this, but I'll give you 2 waters for $3. But you can't tell anybody. It's a deal I'm only giving you.
You seem like a nice guy. I like you.
It's funny you mentioned that. I did come into a bunch of nicotine gum recently, so
Yeah, that's the deal. I'll give you these 2 king-size Snicker bars and this half pack of nicotine gum. Someone just left it here, but
prison barter economy going on here. It is time.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while now because I've probably heard 2 notes of a Melvins song, but I know King Buzzo, like I know that fucking guy's face and his hair and everything.
I was disappointed that his name wasn't Melvin when I found out.
Yeah. No, it's not a legit last.
That would be pretty perfect.
No, it's named after a dude. The band's named after a guy they worked for at a grocery store named Melvin, who was kind of a hard-on. And he's still alive, and he's in the Melvins documentary.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, like because they did it as like an insult. Not an insult, but it's sort of like, they named it after, it's like they're I don't know, it's just I thought it was kind of funny to name it that it was that. It's not named after the wedgie or whatever, so,
Is it Leonard Skinner named after a gym teacher or something? I feel like isn't that
sounds like
it's named after some teacher that was like Leonard Skinner or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think that teacher died in a plane crash. Oh no, wait.
Oh shit.
Yeah. That's true.
This record, Bullhead. Like I said, I'm very excited to listen to because I know all that stuff, but I've never really heard a Melvin song, so it's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
To get into this. So the first track on the album, you said this is the one that they open with at the show?
I'm pretty sure because I remember it was a dirgy song. Yeah, this was my first time seeing them. They didn't release another album that has a real long dirge in it until, because they have sludgy songs like peppered throughout their thing. But this is like this song and a song from an album called Lysol are like their 2 they're two very signature like dirgy beginnings. And then there's another one that's older. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was this one just from my again, I was like 15 when I saw it, so I mean it could have been
exactly.
could have been something else, but I'm pretty sure it was this song.
Cool.
All right. Well, if you name your band Melvins, then you got to name your song another crazy weird name. So this is track number 1. This is Boris.
God, I want to meet the diehard Melvins fan who's like, hey, these are my 2 sons, Melvin and Boris.
They exist.
And my daughter, Anaconda.
We got a group, man. They definitely... Actually, there's another band that named their band Boris from Japan.
Oh, really?
Is an homage to the Melvins. Yeah, and they play very dirgy songs. So...
Oh, this is cool.
Yeah, this is like fuzzed out.
You'll hear it, yeah.
Yeah, this is sludgy.
Very slow. The thing about it, you gotta remember, this is early 90s, like late 80s, early 90s, they're putting this shit out. Making songs that were like kind of unattractive feeling, even in metal. Like metal even had like catchy 4/4 riffs, right? Doing 4/4 time riffs or like have
especially if you're Metallica.
Yeah, even all of that, all these songs. When you look at the way songwriting is and it's typical 4/4 time and all that kind of stuff, not many bands were experimenting with time signatures like differences. And the thing is, Buzzo's not even he's not even a classically trained music guy. He self-taught himself guitar.
Cool.
So he basically was like writing in different time signatures. Here's the vocals. Oh, here, yeah. So his vocals don't sound, there was no band that sounded like this.
And, this is very different.
And not only that, when a lot of bands in metal, before they called doom, sludge, and all that stuff, no one else in heavy music, since Black Sabbath really was taking that crunch of metal and playing it slower. And they were like really the first to make it a thing. And it wasn't even their main thing. They didn't make every song sound like that. That was kind of, but they were known for it. And then so many bands, from like I Hate God was one. I would even say some Neurosis. They went in a slower direction. A lot of bands in the aftermath of all that then just like took that ball and kept going.
His voice, now that you say that Black Sabbath reference, his voice is a little bit of that Ozzy Osbourne, just kind of almost like talking in a melodic way.
Yeah, and his voice is weird. Like it's not attractive. Like none of this.
Right, but it works for this kind of music though. Like, you don't want like someone who can like actually sing like with this being played behind them. The voice matches what's going on.
Can you imagine this song playing and then like Neil Diamond singing over it?
I can see. Actually, I can see that. It would not be that bad.
Sweet Caroline.
Yeah, the crossover we never knew we needed.
They do a lot of covers, and I wonder. I don't know if they've done a Neil Diamond cover. They do.
What's like some cool covers that they've done?
That's the other thing that they've actually done covers of songs that sound better than the band's originals, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they're really good at that.
What are like some cool covers that are like some of your personal favorites of theirs?
Youth of America. It's a song by the Wipers. I never even heard it until I heard them play it.
That's cool.
It's a great song. There's Sacrifice by Flipper that they did on their Lysol album. I'd never really listened to much Flipper, and then found out it was a cover of that they were doing that was way slower and dirgier. And then I heard the original.
Now, is Flipper named after the dolphin or the tooth accessory?
I'm pretty sure it's not really like named after the dolphin, but they kind of allude to it with their dolphin or with their
like
fish
an homage
logo. And even an homage. There's a bunch of heroin addicts that were
they allude to it with their fish. Okay,
well, no, but
if they have Flipper in a fish logo, they're named after Flipper.
If you saw the logo, it's not. It's just a hand-drawn stick figure, man. Like it's not. It's weird. Look, and they were a band that kind of in the like what I just described about the Melvins. Flipper was known for during the hardcore punk rock days. They were the band that would play these slow
backflips and tricks and squeaking nicely.
Yeah. No, they were playing slow songs on purpose to piss off all the punk rockers at the hardcore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was their thing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So they were named after people flipping them off.
Maybe
pissing them off.
Hard to say. Like I said, they're all heroin addicts. So
it could be anything.
It'll be anything.
They don't even know where the name comes from.
Creative people. Yeah.
Yeah. Now this next song, I gotta tell you, if this album didn't have this song, I wouldn't be listening to it at all because, no, I was really trying to make an Anaconda reference. This is Anaconda.
I don't want none, okay?
Oh, this is dope. What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Dude. Like, Rick knows this, but I'm a big Queens of the Stone Age fan. And, like, a lot of reminiscent, like, Queens things where it's like, oh, no, duh, like, Josh Homme, the lead guy from Queens, was a big Melvins fan.
He's a big fan. Yes, he is. And his previous band, Caius.
Exactly.
That's another band. That,
you mean Kius?
Yeah, Kius. That's good. But no,
yes, like before I knew about them, that's how I pronounced it.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
He's
that
not
is
making
great.
A joke. He's just being honest.
Oh, Kius. I love Kius. I love it when bands make names that then I found out the band Jesu, which is like this guy Justin Broderick from the band Godflesh. He started this other band that I like just as much called Jesu, but it's pronounced Yesu. I found out.
Oh.
I'm like, well, then why didn't they spell it with a Y? But I don't know, it's some classic pronunciation. I don't fucking care.
I thought it was Sufjan Stevens. Found out at the show it's Sufjan Stevens.
Oh, I thought it was Sufjan.
Oh, maybe it's even that even. Who knows? Even Steve doesn't know.
Yeah.
It's certainly not Sufjan.
It's dude, Sufjan, man. He's like, get the fuck out of here.
So as you can see, Anacondas picks up the pace a little bit, so it's not like everything's
Yeah.
slow and
But it still has that like almost sludgy vibe to it.
It does.
Like,
yeah.
the fuzz, the effects on those
Yeah.
instruments are so cool.
And the kind of the way and again, this was, remember, it was like 1990. Everything's so milquetoast same that my second time seeing the Melvins live was at a show where there was probably like 30 people there tops. It was not a lot of people in a club that fit hundreds. And it was I loved it. I loved it because I got to see them. It was like I got a private show to myself. And
yeah.
Yeah, but again, like they have these. You can see YouTube videos of them back in that day. They have a show that's a live show at UCLA. I think they're on the college campus. It's outdoors, and you'll see the Melvins at this time with their bass player Lori Black, who is Shirley Temple's daughter. She played.
Fuck?
Yeah, she lived in San Francisco. Shirley Temple Black, her last name's Black, and she had a daughter named Lori Black, who got into music, played in a band called Clown Alley with this dude Mark Dutram, who ended up being the bass player.
In all fairness,
after.
Clown Alley does sound like a Shirley Temple song.
Yeah, might have even been, And
you should have gone by the name Roy Rogers.
She ended up dating King Buzzo for a minute after he moved from Washington to San Francisco, and then that's how she ended up joining the band, and she became probably one of their more popular bass players because it was a girl.
Yeah,
love it.
And to look at her, she just like, it's so weird because she just looked like this stoic little dark figure playing these incredibly like complex songs at the time, just on her bass. But it was weird because I remember seeing her there, and these songs were so heavy, and she just had this little. I was like, wow, it's like a big presence for just this little small person playing the bass.
Yeah.
It was very unique at the time to see.
And then they played that cover of that Shirley Temple song, and then shit went down.
Animal crackers in my soup.
I was. I liked how you were trying to turn this into a Sir Mix-a-Lot reference, but it didn't.
Look,
power of the Melvins,
I try
man.
so hard.
Yeah.
King Buzzo will
You
not
can see me
allow
just
it.
stumble around it. Because it was like, because I was trying to think, my Anaconda don't want none if it doesn't have this, but this is the Anaconda, so it wouldn't want.
So there's buns.
No, if the song was called Big Butts,
there's
then
gotta be buns. There's buns in this motherfucker. Let's look. Cow's at the end. All right, there you go.
Cow's at the end.
Yeah.
And you know what? At the end of a cow, farts, methane, polluting the environment.
Very true. Very true.
Society collapsing.
Track 3. This is. Do you anything special about this song?
What's funny is there's songs on here. This is probably the song that I because it's funny. As soon as I hear it, I'll know it. But this is probably the one song that I think about the least on this record, only because I don't know what a ligature is, and that's sometimes one of the things I like about the Melvins. Sometimes they make up their own words. Sometimes they use words that I've never heard of before.
Like a tourniquet. I think it's like something tied around something.
Might be, could be. And what I do is I leave it. That's what I love. If you ever check out Melvin's lyrics, some of them are not even words. They're just gibberish. Like it's literally
really.
Like here's some lyrics from their more they're probably their most popular album throughout the thing, Houdini. Was it Los Ticato Res? Might like a sender do re. Tick taka don't re de sender might like a penalty. So those are lyrics. Like Steve, Moaning Ludlow. There's these lyrics that when you read them, you're like, what?
It sounds like mumble rap.
And he says them with complete conviction that it's incredible. Like he makes, and then there's words too. Like he uses actual words too, but it's so funny to watch like the mix between the two. So yeah, if you look up Melvin songs, you'll find a combination of actual English and just something else. Like it's like a kid making up gibberish, and it's so fucking cool. Like I love it. So yeah.
I do too, because like so I'm one of these people that a lot of people when they listen to music, like, oh, these lyrics don't, like, I don't relate to these lyrics, I don't like the song, like the lyrics don't mean anything, and I'm like, the lyrics are a contribution to the overall musicality of the
It's
song.
just the sound of it. It's the sound of it. It's funny.
Exactly.
That's why when, like, I think it's why I don't like Christian rock at all. Because they haven't made anything that's like, the most Christian band I like is a band called Ohm. And they're actually two members of the band, or one of the main members from the band Sleep. It used to be two members and then the drummer quit, but and it's not so much like Christian rock or anything like that. It's just there's themes. It's they explore themes of religion and God and all that within the music itself, and it's fucking great music. And I'm like, wow, Christian rock could take a fucking hint from these guys. It's like, make the music good and make the message like just a fucking afterthought, because it doesn't fucking matter. Yeah. It really doesn't. There's so many like there's so many like bands I don't agree with or whatever and all. It's like, they're fucking musicians. I don't need to agree with the lyrics or whatever to enjoy a song. And I mean, I like some G.G. Allin songs, and I don't like what G.G. Allin stands for, and he's a fucking creep. But he wrote a good song.
I sing along to, like, Doja Cat and stuff, and she's like, is that my Bessie and a Tessie? Like, I can't relate to that shit, but it sounds good. Like, I don't care.
It sounds good, exactly. No, and that was when I got into what the most intriguing thing about, like, I don't get into a lot of new music, but I think like when Kendrick Lamar started coming around, the thing that because he became really popular pretty quick, and there were songs that I heard that I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. But then I heard songs from like an album where the thing that intrigued me more was it reminded me of what Melvins did with music. He was doing with rap, taking these weird time signatures, making like, but the weird thing was everybody was so into it, and I'm more like skeptical. Like, I don't think you guys are into this as much as you think. I think you think you're supposed to be into it because it's Kendrick Lamar, and Kendrick Lamar is fucking with you, which I like. I like that part about him. Like, he's doing some really interesting things, and he's doing it knowing that everybody's on his jock right now. And I kind of like what he was doing with that. So, that intrigued me more, the fact that he was kind of petting the cat backwards with a lot of his musicianship. So, yeah.
That's a great phrase.
I love that.
That's a lot of what I figure these guys do. That's what the Melvins do. Because again, it's like when I first heard these songs, these were not like I could just bob my head easily to these songs. It's like, I have no idea what the fuck they're doing. Like, check out Ligature. I'm curious what it sounds like myself.
Yeah, it's about time. Before, I mean, no further ado, this is Ligature.
Yeah, I remember now.
Like, how is this not somebody's like a boxer or a UFC fighter's like entrance song?
Forrest should be. Forrest
should be Kane from WWE.
Yeah, Night Goat would be their Night Goat off of Houdini would be an entrance song for I've actually, when I do my friend Sean Boyles, when he has shows and he's using music to introduce comedians, he always plays Boris for me. So,
nice.
Yeah. I love Sean Boyles. That's a good guy.
Yeah. He'll never expect to hear that. That's what's great when you said that. So he always thinks I always hate on him, which I do. But I mean, he's one of my good friends. So he's just annoying.
Yeah, we're like 50 seconds into this song, and I still can't figure out what time it's in.
Exactly. I remember this song now, and they don't really play this one much live at all, if at all. But it's. Let's see. Here the vocals are coming in soon. He was like,
I wonder if there was ever a producer for the Melvins to like offer or like be like, so do you guys want to use like a metronome on this track? No? Okay, never mind.
No, they've worked with various producers. Like, the guys that they work with are always like familiar with their music generally. They've never worked with somebody that like try to get a song or a sound out of them to be, more popular or something. Anytime they worked with Kurt Cobain even produced some shit on the album, the first like full length album after this, which was Houdini. And but he was basically, they fired him because all he was doing was nodding off from all the heroin he was doing.
God.
Yeah, and so his name's on there, and even I think he participated too in like a drum, their Spread Eagle Beagle, this drum track they did. It was like this long drum jam, but in beyond that, in name and all that, they actually were like more disappointed in him because he's more Dale Crover's friend, the drummer. Dale actually plays drums on the Bleach album for Nirvana.
Oh, cool.
He was in.
Really?
He was in Nirvana at one point.
Wow.
Yeah, it was before he moved to San Francisco. He didn't know if he was in. They were because Melvins started in Washington. They're from Montesano, Washington, which is near Aberdeen. So they knew all the guys they knew all the guys, or not all the guys. They knew Kurt and Chris from Nirvana. And Buzzo's the guy who knew Dave Grohl and introduced Dave Grohl to Kurt.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah, no, there's that's the connection. Is they basically were just guys. The funny thing about Melvins is they're anybody that knows the music history, they always associate Melvins so heavily with Nirvana, but their music is more akin to their peer and music wise is Soundgarden, which if you everybody mostly knows Soundgarden from mainly from Super Unknown on. Not so much. Bad Motorfinger was their first popular album, which is the last of the Soundgarden albums that lean more towards the sound that was more akin to Melvins. Because if you listen to Ultra Mega OK or Louder Than Love, their song styles were a lot more like unusual. They had different time signatures, and even Bad Motorfinger. Reason why I bring it up, I just got Bad Motorfinger first time on CD because I used to have the cassette when I was a kid. But I kind of they were popular, and I lost interest in them. And then my buddy, who's one of my oldest friends, he was the guy that first got into Soundgarden with me, like when we heard Louder Than Love. And he's like gone into industrial and all. He's a big Skinny Puppy fan, all this other shit. He just recently got nostalgic for old Soundgarden. I was surprised. I'm like, really? You're fucking checking them out again? And then he shot me his rips of Ultra Mega OK and Louder Than Love, and I got way back into them. And so I'm like, I'm picking up Bad Motorfinger. I'll bet you'll like that album though. And he was like, I don't know, man. I'm like, no, I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna listen to that, and I'm gonna listen to Super Unknown again with fresh ears. Bad Motorfinger, still a sick album that's in the old vein of because it's so bass heavy and their songs are still weird. Super Unknown was...
Yeah, I mean, Bad Motorfinger has what, like Rusty Cage and shit?
Yeah, Rusty Cage, Jesus Christ Pose. That was one of the fucking songs they put out as a single. And it's like, that's a weird song. And but when you listen to Super Unknown, it's got its unusualness to it, but the thing is they lowered the bass on it. It's more of a guitar album, and they really went for a higher production value towards. And I'm not saying it was inspired. The thing about Soundgarden that I'll always give them, it's like for all of the things I may not like about what they did after Bad Motorfinger, they still were doing unusual songs that were popular songs. Yeah. So it's like nobody else was making songs like Spoon Man or Black Hole Sun that were like, hits. and I mean, Pearl Jam.
Dude, Black Hole Sun talking about lyrics that make no goddamn sense.
In a sense, yeah, but they were words. They were at least words, real words.
They were words.
Buzzo again, gibberish. Just fucking gibberish every now and then. So, all right, now if you listen to It's Shoved, you'll hear the first song that I ever heard from the Melvins that sounds like it could be a catchy song. This one, I encourage you to hear the whole thing.
Yeah, no, you know what? You can take your instructions and you can make sure that it's shoved right up your ass.
So now you hear catchiness.
Nailed that one. Yeah, there's actually something to follow.
There's actually people have accused one of Nirvana's In Utero songs of ripping this song off.
Oh, okay. Let's see if we can figure
you'll hear
it out.
the bass line.
Okay, yeah, like every Nirvana song. I love it.
So, I think it's almost like them making fun of Nirvana in a way.
Oh, probably.
Could be.
Oh, yeah, especially with that when that guitar comes in.
Yeah. So, like, you'll hear them do this little... Yeah. Like,
that guitar rig, though, is dope.
Yeah. Yeah, now he's like fucking around here and all that stuff. All right, fast forward to the song in the middle so you can hear some vocals.
Listen to the conductor.
So you hear the vocals. Yeah, see how he's doing this shit.
It reminds me of like if Ronnie James Dio was in Clutch.
Yeah, well, I mean, Clutch, a fan of the Melvins. Like I only like one Clutch album to this day, and that's the first one, because that's the weirder of the one. Came out of nowhere, doing just a Shogun named Marcus and shit, and a bebop, a loobop, a wop bamboo, a don't worry, I got it if I got to, shit. All right, you're good. You heard it all. You heard all you need to hear.
Okay. We're done. You've done your time. Man, that's cool. God, I get it. I totally get what the Melvins are about and like why people get into it. Last year they were playing. We got this super small town called Los Osos near us. They were playing at a little saloon there.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
They were doing. Yeah.
I wanted to go so badly, but I missed the show.
They did a small venue mini tour just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to go to all three shows in our area. They played a place in the North Bay. They played they played this place in a town called Felton. They were near Santa Cruz, and I wanted to go to that one. And then they played Slim's to cap it all off. And I was like, I had gigs, and I'm like, as much as I want to go see all three of them, I know the Melvins well enough to know they're going to play the same set all three shows. So I'm like, really? In which case I would, if I had nothing else to do, I'd be happy to go. But I had to do gigs and pay rent. So it's like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to these shows. The Felton one I really wanted to go to because I knew it was going to be a dope show. Because when they play in remote places, they're just their shows are fucking kick ass. And I've preferred to see them. My favorite place to see them now. It used to be Great American Music Hall. Slim's was cool. It used to be second place, but now my favorite place to see them is actually at the Ritz in San Jose, because the club, like they even when it's sold out, it doesn't feel sold out. Like it feels like there's room in the club.
Cool.
And Great American Music Hall too. Like I still love seeing them there, and that's one of their favorite clubs in the country. So
all right, well, we have reached the halfway point in the record, so we're going to take the final break of the show, and when we come back, we got 4 more songs left to wrap this thing up. See you soon. We're back. Welcome to the final part of the Spin Doctors program featuring Mean Dave and the album Bullhead by Melvins. We are halfway through the album. We have reached track 5 on the album. Mentioned earlier, this is a scary movie. This song is called Zodiac.
Yep.
That sounds like the beginning of Wipeout. Ha ha ha!
This is another example of these weird things they do.
Oh wow, those drums.
It's so weirdly produced too. Like the vocals are so low in the mix.
I love that. That was the thing in all my bands. I hated vocals that were too pronounced. I like it when vocals are buried in the music. So.
Do you know what the song is about at all?
No. I don't know what most of their songs are about. I don't even try to find out.
When they're making up words.
I know one song, Night Goat, is about heroin. That's about, people, friends who did heroin.
Do the Melvins have a lot of drug history, a lot of drug problems in their band?
No, and that's actually one of the things that they've. I wish I knew back when I was a kid, because I was into them. I got way into them more after I started doing acid, because I loved listening to them on acid.
Yeah.
And naturally, as a self-centered, addict in training on acid, I assumed that the Melvins were made for drugs and were druggies themselves and whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Turns out, no. These guys are strictly. What's funny is, they've done them when they were in school, but they don't drink. They don't really. I think Dale has beers and drinks here and there, and might occasionally smoke some weed, but they're not partiers. That's the strange. They're strictly like a, working band. And if you to meet them and talk to them and all that, or check out interviews with them, it's really, their offbeatness just comes into their, it's kind of like their interests. I kind of almost in a way, I've always said, for me, they've been like the Quentin Tarantino of music. because they incorporate a lot of what they love from music into their own shit. And yet you wouldn't know unless you know all their influences are so extensive and run deep. You know, they're because they're huge music nerds themselves. And there's a lot of inside jokes in their music. Sometimes they've put out songs that were covers, but people didn't know they were covers because they never heard of the fucking bands that made these songs. One of my favorite songs I didn't know was a cover. It's a song called Leech, and it turned out it was a song by Green River, which is one of those old Seattle bands prior to all of those guys that went on to make Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Mother Love Bone and all those things. That was the band. That was one of the bands that had, like, I think Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam was in it back before the other bands, and the Melvins really liked this song Leech. And they asked why they didn't play it, and the guy said, "Oh, it was just too repetitive." And then Buzzo was quoted as saying, "This coming from the guy who went on to make millions playing repetitive songs in Pearl Jam."
Speaking of Pearl Jam, I have a question.
Yeah,
do you know where their name comes from?
Yeah, it was supposedly they made a joke of where it came from for. That it was some one of their relatives' jam. I don't even believe it. I think it's just some gross joke.
No.
Yeah, like it was jizz.
It's cum. Yeah, it's 100% cum.
And because the name, the number really 10, the number 10 came from Mookie Blaylock, a player on the team of the Seattle basketball team, and they were fans of basketball. So that's where they named the 10. But they said, the story behind the name is just bullshit. I'm like, oh, it's fucking it's cum.
Oh, it's my Aunt Pearl. She makes this jam.
They did a lot of like there was a lot of inside joking between all, and the fact is Pearl Jam was was one of those. All those guys kept forming. Again, there was Green River. Mother Love Bone was the band that they were doing that was supposed to do well, and then their singer died of heroin. And then they ended up forming this other band and linked up and found the Eddie Vedder to sing, who probably could have used some heroin to calm down at the time. But he done. They went on, and then, and I was a fan of theirs. I liked their first album when it came out as much as it was like painful to admit it, because it was kind of like I liked it because it was this earnest songwriting. It was just good songwriting. And then I also liked Verses. But then I stopped following along because I don't know, something about Eddie Vedder's presence. The way he was acting in interviews, like it was a hassle to talk to the press or something. And I'm like, well, then don't play music, asshole. Like, what?
Stop young Eddie Vedder interviews makes it seem like he's like the unhappiest person in the world.
Yeah, it was so put upon. I'm like,
I can't believe I have to do this.
And I get
headline Lollapalooza.
I get the annoyance to some extent, but that's what I always loved about the Melvins is like they were happy to do anything to promote their band as themselves. But what I found, the thing about the Melvins, and I've found this with what I like about a lot of it's outsider art. That they weren't trying to be outsiders. They just happened to be, and they were treated as such. And they embraced it. They leaned into it. And in the end, they end up becoming a band that's alongside some of the other more famous or more known underground bands of popularity, like Jesus Lizard. They were from Chicago. There's Butthole Surfers was one of the more popular ones over time. Ministry was a band that started in the industrial kind of area, but then they kind of got embraced a lot by the metalheads, but they were definitely like akin to stuff like this. They even toured, like Trent Reznor was a fan of the Melvins. One of the more funnier tours to hear stories about was when the Melvins ended up opening for bands where their fans just fucking hated them. And they went on tours. One of the bands that I would see them tour a lot with, because they were friends and they got along, was Primus. And I've seen them open for Primus.
Love Primus.
Yeah, and I used to like Primus, but I actually called them musically the Muppets of music because it was so goofy sounding and stuff. But they were technically great musicians. Yeah. they were great musicians and all that. And the Melvins, they had a great respect for the Melvins, and they had a great respect for Primus. But that's where they met the guys that ended up actually probably being the future of the Melvins was Mr. Bungle, which had Mike Patton, and it's been their work because they've Buzzo and they've collaborated with Patton in Fantomas and other things. But Patton, when he went on to start his label Ipecac, that became the label that became home to the Melvins, and it's been this symbiotic relationship where Ipecac provided a label that is home to the Melvins, but it was the popularity of the Melvins with their cult following that propels Ipecac, that became like the backbone of their label. So it's been this really cool so I was never the biggest Mike Patton fan, and I've stood right next to him in line for the bathroom and never talked to him. I'm like, yeah, you're cool. I like you. I like Faith No More. I like the stuff you've done, but I also know you're kind of obnoxious and whatever. So I don't want to. I don't want to talk to you that bad. I'm not a girl. I'm not attracted to you. So, whatever.
Yeah, it's always better to like they always say, don't meet your heroes. In a way, it's better to have that like, oh yeah, I saw him over there than risk having that fucking awful experience.
Here's the thing. I've met Buzzo. I was on acid when I introduced myself to him for the first time. And I was a total fanboy. Like, I mean, it was like I was 19. I walk right up to him and I'm like, King Buzzo, and he kind of got startled a bit. I'm like, just got to shake your hand, and he shook my hand, and then I just started saying like, huge fan, man. And then he basically took one step to the side and walked right past me, which was fucking great.
Yep.
Especially on acid, because I was just sort of like, it felt both insulting, but just sort of like, yeah, he's right. Fuck me. Like, don't fucking.
Well, he probably knew. He's like, oh, this guy's fucking tripping balls now.
Well, he was polite. No, he said like, hey, how, like he was polite and shit. And I met him later and took a picture with him later. But he's also the guy that suffers. Like, I've actually in the Melvins, they did these Melvins streams in the pandemic, and he does a couple where they're live and he's chatting with the group in the thing. And I've had I've chatted with him a little bit, like briefly and that shit. But I've met Dale Crover, the drummer, a number of times. Always very cool. Nice. He actually, we ran into him when he was married to the Lori from Acid King, which was a band that played a lot with them. They're a sludgy band, very inspired by the Melvins. We were going the wrong way, me and my friend, to Maritime Hall in San Francisco. They were walking, and there was a couple walking in the other direction. And as they get closer, I'm realizing, like, holy shit, I think that's Dale from the Melvins. And as soon as I think it, my buddy Dennis, who's my bandmate, one of my oldest friends, he goes, Dale! Scares the shit out of him. and then he realizes we're fans. And I'm like, oh, dude, it's so cool. I was like, you're Dale. You're Lori from Acid King. We're fans, And they were going to the same show. So we ended up walking and annoying them with questions on the way to the show. And Dale is super cool. And then I met him another time later, and when his band Altamont played, and I told him, I'm like, I met you on the way to Miles when we saw Buddy Miles from the Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies, and he was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, just remembers running into strangers on the street. So. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I met their other bass players too.
Well, I mean, cool. Better to run into somebody like that than being on acid and being like, "Oh, fucking, I love you."
It was. Yeah, totally.
The only way to make it worse is like if I had an exorcism.
Yeah, I wasn't having exactly. I wasn't having a spiritual orgasm. Yeah, speaking of that, if I had an exorcism, that's exactly good timing. This is a weird one. Okay, I mean, like they're all weird, but this one's really weird.
This is somebody having a nervous breakdown.
Kinda. Here it goes. Hear it. So there you go. They play. They do this whole thing where they go. They do their bridge, whatever, and then it goes to the end where they're just playing a single note for a long time. So like go fast forward like by like a minute and a half. Like right there. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So he plays that for a long time by itself, and this is the part where the band joined in. So highly recommend when you go back and listen to this song, you'll see what I mean. It's a weird song. Sounds like an exorcism.
Yeah, and that's that high pitched sound is the demon leaving your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's
that is weird.
It is a weird. They do things that like. That's what I mean. Like they do these weird things in songs that I never heard a band do, and they're very creative. They're very imaginative, and yet at the time it was just sort of like, who does this?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
But now looking back, you can see like their influence on so many different things.
There's a lot of
it makes a lot of sense that there's been so many different bands that have been like, oh yeah, Melvins are a big influence for us.
Totally. And try it out, do something. It's one of those things. I like to say it inspired me not just in music, but also like, you know, when I was making films and just doing other shit, and then eventually going into comedy and you know, doing stand up, and then just sort of like, you know, if you have an idea for something, try it out. It doesn't matter what it is, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, best case scenario, you're blessed.
Yeah, you're blessed. This is a good song.
This is just the drummer having like this is before he doesn't know that they're recording right now. He's just like waiting for the song to start, just like trying some stuff out.
It's kind of weird. It sounds like it, but you'll learn.
You gonna learn.
Yep.
Another one where I have no idea what time signature they're playing.
Yeah. No.
I feel like in this band when they play live, there's a lot of like looking back at each other to make sure they hit at the same time.
Exactly. Like, no, they don't. You want to know who's looking back at each other? The audience. The audience is looking back at each other. The audience is looking back at each other like, does anybody like, you know, like, I've heard this song so many times that I know a lot of the changes, but I get embarrassed myself when like I think they're gonna jump into something and it's another half beat or whatever away. And
but you like throw up a fist at the wrong time.
Yeah, like at the wrong time. This is designed for that shit. Designed to like troll. Their music really trolls rock and roll. That's right. I mean, before even trolling was a thing, they were trolling.
This is rock and troll.
Rock and troll, very much so. That is. I mean, if they heard that, they would be impressed by that.
Hey, look, I've impressed Buzzo. You know, I've won now. There's only going. It only goes downhill from here.
Sideshow Buzzo.
We're on the final track, guys. We're all the way through this album. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Dude, I'm so into this, man. I gotta check out some more stuff.
Yeah, this is I by the first song I was like, oh, Nick's gonna like this.
Yeah. Glad to put you on.
Yeah, this is awesome. And the crazy thing is that they put an album out this year.
Yeah.
And this album came out in 91, 30 fucking years ago.
They've been around since...
And they're just still putting out records.
They're going on 40 years. They celebrated 30 years in 2013. Wow. They're going on 40 years as a band. With rotating bass players throughout the years, but with... The band, the only original member is Buzzo, because they started with a lineup of it was him, Mike Dillard, this guy from where they live, and Matt Lukin, who went on to be in Mudhoney, and so the band. There's only one. The only album with that lineup is an album they released years later. It's on Alternative Tentacles, but Jello Biafra's label, and it's early recordings of them from that era. But the Melvin, and you can catch like some of the sound that they would eventually get, but it was a little more catchy or straightforward stuff because their drummer Mike Dillard was he's a little more of a conventional drummer, when Dale joined the band, Dale was a metal drummer. He came from a background of being able to play heavy metal drumming and like speed metal and whatnot. And Buzzo was looking for a metal drummer to play in this avant-garde band that he had an idea of and this vision of. And then when he found Dale playing in some horrible covers band, he brought him on, and Dale was fucking loving it because it was a band with original songs that played gigs outside of their area. And so he joined up, and Buzzo and Dale, when they found each other, they found like their hetero life mate. They are like Jay and Silent Bob, Cheech and Chong, like all of the great duos. They're a duo that like just symbiotically works perfect. And they've had rotating bass players. When they left Washington, they ditched Matt Lukin and Buzzo. One of the funniest things is we never know specifically why, but Buzzo does not like Matt Lukin. And that's like the main thing. And here's how you know why. The new album they put out this year is the second album that they've done where they've done the Melvins 1983 lineup, they call it. And what they did was they've been old friends. They still stay in touch with their old buddy Mike Dillard, who basically works as a machinist in Montesano, in the place they grew up. They invited him. This is how cool this band is. They invited Mike Dillard to come and record and play drums with the Melvins as their old lineup. And all Dale does is he shifts over and plays bass. So he plays bass.
Cool.
Dope.
And it's really just so they can hang out with their old buddy and write new songs in this different lineup. And that's what Working with God, the album they released this year, that's a Melvins 1983 lineup. Some fans are not into it because the songs are not as technically, it's not Dale doing his fucking sick drumming, but they still write cool songs. I like it. And I really like it because there's a lot of heart in like, just I know that feeling of like wanting to get together with your buddies and do what you did, and and that's what's so funny is like it's like that you're somebody that like Buzzo really doesn't like when he wants nothing to do with you. As like this is the old lineup.
He's like, no, you're not invited.
You're not, and like Lucan even is in the Melvins documentary that they interviewed him and Melvins were fine with that, but it's like. Buzzo's just like, I'm not working with that motherfucker again. And then all you gotta do is and Matt Lucan's on like Instagram and shit, and like we follow him in the Melvins group and stuff. And all he does is every other day he'll remind you why Buzzo doesn't want to work with him. The dude's a mess. He's a fucking mess. He can't play
nothing else.
He can't play complex songs. That was the thing. He had a hard time with the time signature of the songs, and it's like, oh, dude, if he was having trouble then, no doubt, like you're out. Man. You got to keep up, or you're fucking gone. So
it's like playing with Frank Zappa.
It very
like Frank Zappa demanded fucking perfection.
And Buzzo was a big fan of Beefheart and Zappa and all that. He liked a lot of that shit. So So
speaking of Beefheart, you know what things have a Beefheart?
No.
Cows.
Right?
I feel like this is like the most like radio friendly one. So
well,
far.
it starts off cock rockish. That's why. Here, check it out though. But then it goes here. They do a lot of like mock rock kind of vibes and here and there. But then they start doing. You listen to it long enough, it'll get into some shit that doesn't sound normal. Like you'll hear it after this verse. Like they just do this verse. And then you won't hear vocals, I think, until like right here. So now it's already into weird territory.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
It is. And now just go to the end. Go to like halfway through the song. This is all that it is for the rest of the fucking song.
Really?
Let them go.
It's Dale just fucking kicking ass on the drums. Yeah.
Wow.
This is it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's
That's
pretty
hilarious.
Yeah. So that's
what a good fucking album.
Man,
Yeah.
that is so cool. So punk.
Yeah, it's like I said, every album's different. They do different things here and there, but this is that's why I say like this is the complete like before this album, you hear a lot more of like raw recordings of them and their raw ideas. There's some songs that still keep up that they play today. But there's a lot of their catalog. What they do though is every now and then they go back and one of the coolest things they did when they were the Melvins big band, with the 4-piece, they actually went back and did whole albums, like live shows where it was just the whole album night. And they did so they on one night when they did the I don't know if it was the 30th anniversary nights, but they did a 2-night run at Great American Music Hall where one night they played, or no, was it? I don't even fucking remember, but they played, one night it would be Bullhead, with Lysol and Eggnog together, and they would play one set, take a break, and then they'd play another set, doing those albums. And then one night it was, I believe, Houdini and Stoner Witch, and cool. they were playing complete albums of from these eras.
Yeah.
And they were, and I have their CD set of those live shows, and they were fucking incredible.
Cool.
One of the best covers they ever played. I didn't even know it was a cover. I thought they were doing it on their own. And they divert into this drum jam. The drum jam, Spread Eagle Beagle, is from the Houdini album, and so they're doing the drum jam, and that drum jam's like 10 minutes, but then the drum jam starts turning into this thing where one of the guys starts saying, "I want a pizza, Pizza, I want a pizza," and then they go into this chant of wanting pizza, and then okay. And then they start shouting on ingredients like pepperoni, put it on a pizza, fish sticks, put it on a pizza, and they start doing this shit, and I'm like, this jam's fucking hilarious. And it turns out it's a cover, as all things are.
Oh my god!
It's a cover of the Olsen twins. When they put out those Olsen twins.
Oh my god!
Look up "I Want Pizza" and you will see the original "I Want Pizza" rap by the Olsen twins.
Amazing!
It's fucking evil as fuck. It is so demented. And you watch them,
incredible. And
it's just a hyped up "I want pizza, Pizza," and they start doing this pizza rap. Of all these ridiculous things to put on a pizza, and you'll find also the Melvins version. If you look up Melvins, "I want pizza," you'll find the Melvins version, and it's fun to compare and contrast. It's fucking hilarious. Oh my god,
so fucking hilarious!
Oh yeah, dude. I had no idea it was
what
a cover
crazy band
till 5 years later or something. But they're into that shit, and and they do covers. They do that shit for that one person who might know who actually
right.
Yeah.
They're like, well, what the fuck are they playing? Mary Kate and Ashley right now?
Exactly. That's exactly.
The Olsen twins are the Melvins of child stars. So
yeah, there was some motherfucker in that audience who knew. I can just
My two loves. Yeah. Olsen twins and Melvin.
Yeah.
Rock on, brother.
Yeah, Buzzo and Dale are like Mary Kate and Ashley.
They are, in a way. They very much are, in a way, man. So.
And the bassist that always changes is Uncle Jesse.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing this album with us, man.
No, not a problem. Thanks for having me.
So much fun. This was a great record.
Glad you enjoyed it.
You want to plug anything? You want to tell people where to find you?
You can go check out In the Meantime with me and Dave on YouTube. I haven't made a new episode yet, but I'm going to be getting back to it. But there's plenty of old episodes to enjoy. And if you want to find me any further, you can find that information in the info on those YouTube episodes of In the Meantime with me and Dave. So there you go.
Excellent.
Nice.
Go find him. Go listen. Dave's a delight. Absolutely wonderful.
Ditto, man.
He's a staple.
He's a staple. He's but one of those big like metal staples, like the ones for putting barns together and
Hella
shit.
Metal staple.
Yeah.
One that keeps your bones together.
Thank you guys for listening. Yeah, couldn't do it without you. Big thank you to Pale Blue Dot for our theme for you off the album Kingdom, Phylum, Class, Order, Family, Genus, Species. Go get it. What are you doing? And that's it. Find us at SpinDocPod on Instagram or Twitter. You can send us an email at spindoctorspod@gmail.com if you got any questions or comments, or you want to yell at us or something. I have a show in Salinas on July 31st, so check out my stuff at Who's Rick Store for more info on that.
They do shows out there? I didn't know that.
Well, it's As always, I've been Rick Store. What the fuck? That's not how that goes. As always, I've been Rick.
I've been Nick.
And we've been the Spin Doctors. Hope you enjoyed your medicine!